your LinkedIn, you went from, just from looking at LinkedIn, it says you went from Park City High to Cubic Design for 14 years. So I just wanted you to, I mean, kind of talk through that and kind of how you got in the industry, and just give us a little background.
Yeah. So, grew up out west in a ski town and ended up moving towards the east just as I got married and started a family. My wife's from Ohio, which is where we currently live. Didn't really get into the material handling or industrial market until we moved out this direction. And when we lived in Kentucky, I actually worked for a company that at the time was the HVLS fan company. And now everybody knows them as Big Ass Fans.
Yep.
And was there as they kind of made that migration over. So that was back in 2003. Worked there for a couple of years and got connected with Cubic Designs in late 2004 and eventually went to work for them in the middle of 2005. And then stayed with them until 2018. And was largely just due to, at that time, the way that my position was working out. I was remote and it was really hard. I was tasked with leading the sales team at that time. It was just hard to do remote. A lot of the guys were remote, but I also wasn't in the office to go help kind of push things through or help or advocate on their behalf. And so I left and spent about 14 months at Space Guard doing woven and welded wire, mesh guarding, things of that nature, and was enjoying that. And then ultimately got approached by my business partner, Bill Jones, with an idea and an opportunity to get back into platforms, which is something I've enjoyed. I think I've done pretty well with. And so now 4 years ago, Legacy was born, and we're continuing to kind of find ways to grow and hopefully make an impact.
Yeah, no, I called Bill the other day and told him that you and I were jumping on, and just to have a few talking points, and he didn't give me anything. He didn't, he gave me nothing. He said, you guys just need to talk and have it be normal. And I'm like, well, that was the plan, but I wanted something. I wanted
something of substance.
Yeah, something. So no, that was all good. That was kind of the answer I was expecting from him, but I was just hoping maybe there was something there. I remember the last time you and I talked, it was how did you find your way to Cubic? Wasn't it like something had to do with a trade show? You were at a trade show?
It was. So back when I was working for Big Ass Fans, they were invited to exhibit at a customer trade show. And it's a company that is now Western Storage and Handling. And at the time, I think it was Mexico. They had a bunch of their vendors coming in. And so I went out because the regional managers that covered that part of the country they were newer to the company, not really comfortable yet, sort of in that setting. And so I went out there. Our booth happened to be right next door to Cubic Designs booth. And so Bob Detloff, who was with Cubic for years, he and I got to talking. And then about a month later, he reached out and said, hey, we've got an open territory. We really don't go out and promote or we kind of try and find people from within, and I thought you might be a good fit. And a guy that you and I both know pretty well, Mike Gifhorn, got my resume in November and got around to calling me in April of 2005. And it's been on my desk. I'm meaning to call you. It's
it's a big desk.
It's a big desk, and at the time, Mike covered the Western U.S. for Cubic Designs, along with being president of the company and all those things. So few things slipped through the crack, but it was by sheer happenstance that some regional managers I worked with just weren't quite didn't have the confidence yet, and the fact that Bob and I hit it off pretty well. So
yeah, no, it is a small world. It is a small world for sure, and this industry there's so many people in it, but it's still yet so everybody knows everybody,
and it's tough to get out of. You very rarely hear of people that got into industrial sales, material handling, and left. They may move around. They may find a different product or niche. But, it seems like once you get in, you find out it's a pretty cool industry, pretty cool things to be a part of, and it gets its arms around you.
Yeah, that was the first, when I first got into the industry, I was selling forklifts, and it was kind of the same deal. One of the guys that was there he originally started the company, so he was there for, 30 plus years. And he said the same thing. He's like, once you're in the industry for about 2 years, you're never going to leave. And I didn't laugh at him, but I kind of laughed, not thinking there's no chance. There's no, and here we are, like
A lot of years
not
later.
not leaving. So
No, you can't now.
no, I can't now. I'm committed. That's for sure. Um, is that a Space Guard little sample piece behind you?
It is a little
Yeah,
promotion right there. Yeah.
yeah,
So when I worked for Space Guard, still lived in Ohio and was setting up this home office. And so I reached out to, as I was doing, like, it'd be really cool to do kind of a vision board, but have it
right.
that. So yeah, I painted it bright orange because that was the color they were doing for the Beast Wire, and
Yep.
just sort of stuck. So
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get rid of it, and it's been a useful tool.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's a cool background.
We've got a really nice couple of projects going on with those guys. So
Yeah, no, that's what I figured. And that's kind of thing too. It's like the industry's small, and it's one of those where it's like reputation's everything. I know you have a great reputation just for everyone that I talk to. And it's like not burning the bridge, when you leave a place, there's ways that you can work together, and obviously you're doing that. I mean, you were there for 14 months and you created a obviously a very strong relationship with the people there. So it was pretty cool.
Yep. It's for as big as the industry is, it's, as we've talked about, a lot of people, they don't necessarily leave. They may go to a different company, different product, different number of things. But I would tell you that from Legacy's perspective, in our early days, we had a much different offering. The way the company started out, we were more on the consulting side, and companies that have been my competitors, Bill's competitors for years, suddenly became potential suppliers to us. And through having, I think, dealt respectfully with our competitors, not out disparaging them. There were certainly projects we won, there were projects that we lost, but we didn't win them because we drug them through the mud, and vice versa. They didn't win them because they drug us through the mud. There was a compelling reason the customer chose it. And that allowed us, when we started Legacy, to have some suppliers that had been competitors in the past, that they trusted we were going to do the right things. They trusted that we wouldn't be doing anything to undermine their business, and have all said, hey, if you guys ever go take the next step, you just need to be honest with us and let us know where you're at. And then if we're competitors, we're competitors. If we're not, and that's huge. And I think that's my hat off to a lot of our suppliers for taking that leap with us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a simple thing when you say it like that, but obviously it's a lot harder than it sounds.
It is. And it means the world when somebody bestows that level of faith in you to say,
yeah,
you've treated me well over the years. I will support you in your new endeavor.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. You touched on, Legacy in late 2019, right?
Yeah.
Versus where it is now. And we could go a million different ways on that, but you guys have grown like crazy, and now you have Legacy Steel as well. But I guess, can you just talk through what Legacy was versus what it is now,
Sure.
like what's turned into?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. We started the 5-year plan that Bill and I originally came up with. We checked a lot of those boxes by year 2, and a lot of that was revenue and what the customer base and a number of different things that we were offering, which has been hugely exciting. We had planned to build a plant by year 5. We had it in year 3, and it's a risk. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of good people in the space, but we felt like we had a good reason to do it. When we started, as I mentioned, we were mainly intending to be just a consulting group, and more specifically in the general contractor space, because they were going out with, in the e-commerce world, they were going out and looking for these, what they call delegated design, what we know as platforms, pre-engineered, prefabricated platforms. But it's something that is somewhat foreign to them. They work with big steel. It's a lot of welding and built on site type of stuff. So these lighter weight structures, it's not that they couldn't handle it. It was just something they didn't totally understand. And how do you compare one to the other? So the whole goal was, hey, we're going to tell you which is the best value or best offering for you. That could be price, lead time, ability to deliver, all of those things. We were going to be that kind of independent eyes for you. And that lasted for exactly 1 project. And the second project that we were awarded, or that we were consulting on, we recommended 2 different platform suppliers for the same building. There were 4 large platforms in the building, and neither supplier could do all four and still meet the schedule. So we said, hey, split them up, go to company A and company B. Company A wouldn't sign the contract, wouldn't accept the general contractor's comments or contract because it had liquidated damages and payment terms and all that stuff. They just didn't want. So they said, will you take the contract? And I didn't even call Bill. I was on the phone. I'm like, yeah, we'll do it. Overnight, we went from a 5-figure consulting to a 7-figure contract. And it was like, okay, I guess now we're going to ride this train. And that has turned into a pretty good reputation within the general contractor world where we have certainly stumbled along the way. We've had some misses, but we've also come in with some recovery plans to say, yep, we missed here, and here's how we're going to make it up. And that's a huge part of that phase. Yeah,
it's been cool to have kind of a seat over to the side and just being able to, obviously we know a lot of the same people. So just hearing the stories and just seeing the growth has been, I mean, I know all of us over here at 2-3 are rooting you guys on, and we love hearing the stories and seeing you guys succeed and seeing the plant being built. I felt like, I don't know, it was just cool. It was cool for me, and I'm just in front of my computer looking on LinkedIn. So I can't imagine what you guys are feeling.
We're feeling an immense sense of pride. It's a great team that I'm going to say Bill has assembled. The one thing he should have told you is I'm not allowed to hire people at Legacy, largely because I'm really bad at it. I've got a history of poor hires, but we have assembled just a really cool team of people. I said to my wife today, actually, that there's nobody in this company, including spouses or significant others, that I would say I wouldn't be willing to go have dinner with them one-on-one or sit down. Yep. They are all people that bring some really unique perspectives, different personalities and all that, but every one of them is a person that I really enjoy. And, part of what we've embarked on is getting we still do platforms, but we're also jumping into things like the miscellaneous metals that jam up a lot of the platform suppliers, not because they can't do them. It's just, it's harder for them to work through. It's not something that they excel at. And so we've looked for a space to maybe make it a little bit better. And that's why Legacy Steel was built. It's not a 250,000 square feet. It's a smaller footprint, not a ton of robotics and automation, that sort of stuff, but it really is designed to fill in a gap where some other people just don't want to play.
Yeah. No, and I think, talking just about how you guys hire and I guess how do you guys go about that? I've heard just some stories, some good stories, some kind of unique stories from Bill just on hiring, but I guess what kind of goes through your mind when you're looking to add people? Like, what are you looking for?
It's as cliche as this sounds, it is really about the person. We go out to the same channels that many people do. There's, with the ability to get out in front of people, both on things like LinkedIn and various posting boards and stuff like that, job fairs, we reach out to a number of people, but a lot of it's a personality fit. Can you come in and do you have the right mindset of get it done, have fun? We want to take it seriously, but we don't want it to be your life. This should never be anything that's that crazy. The other part is you'll see a lot of the people within the four walls of Legacy that are longtime friends or past coworkers. Our controller is somebody who Bill and I both worked with for close to a decade. She was in the process of largely losing a large portion of what she did at her previous job, and kind of saw a chance of there may be some writing on the wall. So, she was an easy ad because she knew kind of how the business worked, how Bill and I worked. And we knew that the personality that she would, the other part is that we knew that she would keep us in check. If we wanted to go buy something, she would sit down and say, nope, the money's not there, or you're going to find a way to do that. There's a number of people that work for us that are friends of Bill's for many, many years and bring a very diverse background. And, one of my favorite stories is the guy that does a lot of our model work in-house, our 3D models in-house. There's a guy that developed and was doing website work for Kohl's. Yeah. Bill says, hey, I think we should hire this guy. I'm like, great. Tell me about it. Well, he works for Kohl's. He does this, does that. Really good guy. Yeah, what does he know about BIM and models? Doesn't even know what it stands for.
Yep.
Well, then let's hire him.
Yeah.
But it was, if you knew his entire background and how he got into the website design, it was an easy one. And within a month, he was doing models for us that we were sending to customers. And so that it was just kind of Bill's knowledge of this guy's ability to learn.
Yeah. And I've been just, again, aside, looking from the outside in, it's like you're training, the training process, like you guys, obviously you're bringing people in that may have no experience like what you just talked about. And it's just being able to get people up to speed so quickly without overwhelming, them, and, making sure you simplify things. I know Bill talked about, you guys recorded a lot of conversations that you had, which I think was just an awesome idea. But just kind of, you guys are obviously intentionally doing that. And I think maybe some of it it happens on accident, and you realize like, wow, that we were doing something good and we didn't even realize it. So kind of a mix of both. But I just always been curious too, like from a training standpoint, bringing in someone who has no idea what, BIM stands for,
Right.
To now, being, almost, I would say probably an expert, right? I mean, he's an expert at this point. I've seen what he's done. So
pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like in any business, it's different for different people. So Jack is a very motivated self-starter, and he wants to, he's one of those that probably as a kid took his, a remote controlled car apart just to see how it worked and then put it back together to play with it type thing. Just he really wants to understand all the inner working. We've got others that just are, hey, I'm going to ask a lot of questions, that they want to have a pretty lengthy back and forth. And they may ask you the same question 3, 4, 5 times, just to sort of get it drilled in. A lot of people that are that visual learner, just take me out to a job site or give me some drawings or whatever. So the one thing I would tell you is we've worked hard to meet people where they are. We've also created, at least it feels like we've created a space where people are not afraid to ask questions. And they're also not afraid to, especially for Bill and I, to call us out on, you guys have been doing this for 12, 15, 18 years. Dumb it down for me. Mm-hmm. You're running through it because it's second nature to you. You just said stringer. I don't even know what you're talking about. Yep. And so they have that confidence to say, I don't know this. Don't assume I know it. Take me back to the basics. And that's huge to us, because I don't know what somebody knows, and I don't want to assume that you don't know it and talk down to you.
Yep.
And that's been fun. The other part is kind of empowering people within the company, and everybody talks about doing it. We haven't done it perfectly yet, but we really want people to make mistakes. Hopefully not $100,000 mistakes, but go make a $5,000 mistake and realize that we didn't fire you over it. The world didn't end. People didn't have to take pay cuts or do anything like that. It's, hey, what did we learn from it, and how do we not do it again?
Yep.
So I famously tell the story that our very first project, before we had any money coming in, Bill made a $38,000 mistake on a project.
Shout out to Bill Jones.
Yeah. I still give him a bad time about everything. He turns it around because I took a bad project that cost us a lot of money as well, and almost cost us one of our project managers at the time. So we've been able to give and take on ways we've tried to ruin the company over the past few years.
No, that was kind of the same for me. Is the president of the company that I started at. I mean, he didn't encourage people to make mistakes, but it was one of those where it's like, if it happens, it's a learning opportunity. And if you don't learn from it and you're making the same one over and over and over again, then, at some point we can't help anymore.
Right. We don't want to do this over and over again. But the other part, Jake, and it's probably the same in your organization at 2-3, I want to give people the ability to make that decision without feeling like they have to come to me.
Yep.
Hey, there's a $1,000 change order coming, or out of goodwill for the customer, I'd like to give them this. Do it.
Yep.
And the amount of time that you wasted to stew over it, come up with a solution, and then call me, we could have gone and made $1,000 somewhere else. We want to give them that area to to sort of make those autonomous decisions within reason. And it sounds like you've had that same background and brought that same thing to Toothbrush.
Yeah, no, and that was that's definitely one of the things that I learned from, from over there. And it's one of those things that's hard to understand. Like, people can say it, right? Like, you can say make mistakes, but until you do make that mistake, and then you realize, like, I actually am still here, still working here, and I learned from it. It is hard to understand that until you actually go through that, that process.
That's right. It's scary the first time.
Yeah. What's is there, staying on that, and are there a few, or is there anything specific, to a mistake you made that other people in the industry can learn from? I mean, that's a question that, yes, it's always great to learn from your own mistakes.
Yep.
But it's better to probably learn from someone else's mistakes, so you don't even have to do it.
I would tell you one of the best lessons that I got, and I don't know that I fully learned from it, but early in the platform world, I was kind of willing to go take on anything if I felt like conceptually I could design the platform. And I'm not an engineer; I wouldn't pick out the framing sizes of that. But if in my mind conceptually it could be done, I'd be willing to go take it on. And there was a phrase, I know that this, as you and I both know, Mike Gifhorn, he's the one that said it to me. I know he didn't coin it, but he did use it a lot of times with me, which is sometimes you make more money on the jobs you don't take or you don't win. And there were a couple of those where the company still made money, but well below target gross profit, and more importantly, created a lot of churn. One of those where you just, engineering went through all kinds of work that if you build per hour, the company lost money on it.
Yep.
And it was a hard one. And even I would tell you, legacy in the early days, Katie Harvey, who was a project manager for us early on and now is in sales, I took on a project that it was adding on to something I had done years ago. And it almost cost us her leaving us, just because at the time she was a project manager, she was running this project, and between the customer, the end user, and our customer, it was going off the rails. And it's not to put the blame on the end user or the dealer. There's certainly enough to go around, but it was one that should have walked away from. But early on, there's some money in it, and it would help, put some of this stuff to rest. So
yeah,
it's a lesson I'm slowly learning.
I'm still learning it too, because even when starting 2-3, it's like, when you're studying the company, like, you have to take on stuff that you look back on maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years down, and be like, why did but you don't question it because you needed to do it at the time, and I got a picture in my office of, it's not 2,000 pallets, but there was a deal when I first started. Like, I literally convinced the company to sell me their pallets so I could resell them. like I had things to pay for. So, I knew that wasn't going to be the core of the business. But at some point
you have to do it, right? You have to, how do I get the old quote to cash? Like, how do I get this cash coming in? Cause I got real bills that have to be paid.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And especially as you add more people to the team, it becomes very real. So, even going back to that too, it's you and Bill, and then Paul joins, right? Bringing on, now you're up to, with the plant, aren't you guys up to 30 plus right now?
We're at 36 people right now.
Yeah.
36.
So it's real. It was real at 2 and at 3, but it's like now you got families involved, and it's just, I imagine you're feeling every day, when you were a sales director at another company versus now being, you and Bill and Paul, like, you guys are, you're the guys. People are relying on you.
They are. And it's interesting. I've always been, to use the term, ownership minded. So in previous jobs, I never wanted to squander the company money. And not that I tried to save every dime, but tried to be a good steward of the money and balance being, customer service and doing what's right by the customer, but by also not giving away the farm. But when you start to look at having, more than 35 families that are depending on you, and that includes Paul's family, Bill's family, and my family. We don't take those folks out,
Yeah.
it becomes very real. And the other part is, as I said earlier, because there isn't a single one of them that I don't deeply care for, that I don't enjoy time with. It's that much more important to say, I don't want to let you down. If somebody chooses to leave legacy, while it might hurt, and if we don't necessarily want it to happen, same time, if it's better for them, that's great. We want to support you, help you move on. What do we do to make you successful? We don't want to be the situation where it's like, we have to let you go because we can't make payroll.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are very real concerns that happen every day. That gets back to where having a good controller, a good CFO that says, you guys can't spend that money. We need to, just got to stay in reserves for payroll.
Yep. No, that makes sense. For the longest time, I didn't even know you were in Ohio.
Yeah.
Like you from a maintaining the culture that you guys have. I mean, obviously Bill's there every day, but, and I know you're coming over here often.
Yep.
I mean, how do you do that? Because I mean, you guys are doing an awesome job at creating a place where people want to work. Obviously, 4 years, you guys are up to, the amount of people that you have now. Like, how do you do that from being a few states over?
So a lot of it is things like Teams, different video chatting options are great. The other part is being readily available. If somebody has a question, knowing that they can call you, that if they're confused, concerned, in a rush, that they can pick up the phone and call you, send you a text. And then being very intentional. When I go to town, I very rarely get work done once I walk in the door, because some of it is just being a social guy. I want to go around and see everybody, talk to them, interrupt their day, get pulled into meetings that help me understand what's going on. And it also gets back a little bit to that discussion of sort of empowering the group. I think, we stay so connected through emails, through Teams, through our meetings. The other thing that we do, we call it coffee talk. We now have it every other week. The entire company comes together, whether you're remote, even if you're living in Milwaukee, but you're working from home that day, or for whatever reason you're on the road. Everybody calls in. Sometimes it's only 5 or 10 minutes. It was born out of, in the early days when it was just Bill and I, 6:30 Milwaukee time. He and I both have a cup of coffee, and we'd get on Teams and just talk. What do you got coming on today? What are the challenges? Just, we're starting this business, and it was every day. And when we added Paul and then Katie, we still were doing it every day. Then it split out. We were doing it a couple times a week, once a week. We don't want to inundate people with meetings, but we want to stay very close to them. We want to make sure that everybody understands you are an integral part of this. And so even being a few states away, just having that regular face-to-face contact is huge.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up, especially when you have a project that's gone sideways and it's taken more time. It's just being, disciplined, to be intentional, to meet with everybody and like you said, be available. Again, something that's so simple, but you and I probably have both seen the exact opposite of that. When you have someone that you're trying to get a hold of for help, and it's I'll give you a call tomorrow. It's like you can only do that so many times before it's before, like yourself, you start your own company.
Well, and Spar becomes too late, right?
Yeah.
It's and it's not necessarily too late for the customer, but in so many people's eyes, people that are part of legacy may look at it and say, but now I've got to live for the next 12 hours with this angst or concern or whatever it is. I'm taking this more seriously than you are. And we don't want people. Everybody goes home at some point with work on their mind. The more you can take those worries away, or at least let them know, hey, we're in this together. Drop it for tonight. We'll get together on the call with the group at 9:00 tomorrow, whatever that is. You've at least given them that sort of that pass to say,
yep,
hey, relax for a little bit.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. What when we started this podcast, it was really, I thought it'd be cool to give a shout out to someone that's helped you along the way. I'm sure you've had multiple, because you don't really see that often. It's like, you can send a text to someone every once in a while, but it is cool to share. I mean, obviously you've had people that have helped you along the way, and I know you're helping you're kind of in the spot now where you're helping others. So
Yep.
I guess who first comes to mind? If it's one person, if it's a few people.
There's probably two that stand out the most. So the first would be Bob Detloff, and that's simply because he linked me up with Cubic, and that was we can do a whole nother podcast on big ass fans, great product, but at the time it was just a much different work environment than I wanted or that I was used to. But I also, having just started a family, had just moved from Utah to Kentucky, didn't really feel like I had a way out. And so, Bob kind of giving me that confidence, calling me up and saying, would you be interested, was a huge shot in the arm. And he's since gotten out of, he's still in industrial sales, but he's more on the ergonomic side
Yep.
of things.
We work with them. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And one of the great guys, but great sense of humor, doesn't take as serious as life gets, and he can take things seriously. He also knows how to cut through it with a pretty good dry joke, just to make sure that everybody knows I'm not living and dying this yet.
Yeah.
But that meant a lot that he would make the recommendation. And probably one of the most valuable relationships that I've had in this industry is Mike Gifhorn. And, Mike gave me a lot of latitude in working at Cubic, and the ability to go out and just, here's your job, go figure out how to do it. And didn't micromanage, and didn't really have the ability to micromanage, quite honestly, because he was running a company, he was running a territory. But we've remained, to this day, we have remained close friends. I visit him when I'm in town. The running joke at the whole time that I worked for him was that I was the biggest suck up. But when we'd come in for a sales meeting, I very rarely stayed at a hotel. I had been invited to stay at his house, and that means a lot. That gives you, he's been a great sounding board for, probably in your same boat, for your company, for legacy. But those are probably the two, notwithstanding Bill and Bill and I worked closely together. I was loosely his boss at one point, if you will, but that group really didn't need anybody other than just somebody to help shepherd things through. But probably the two longest running would be Bob and Mike.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I knew Mike would probably be one.
Yeah,
and I think he's probably going to be a common theme, which I'm sure he's going to love to listen to.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's been a huge reason why we're at where we're at, and even starting our install company. I mean, it's just without that conversation, it probably would never have happened. So he seems to
a good way of, as we actually, even before Legacy started, I had an opportunity. I was approached about buying a business, and knew the previous owner. It has since been sold, but knew the owner at the time, and somebody who I have not only a ton of respect for in business, the way he ran the company, the product, everything about it. But as I started working it out with Mike, he had a way of kind of cutting it down and taking that feeling part of it out of it, taking the heart out of it, and saying, okay, but go to the mind. Does what makes sense for you on all these fronts? and really making it, this needs to be a business decision, not a passion decision, right? You can be passionate about what you do, but you also have to make sure, does it make sense for what you're trying to do in life? And that he's been huge and super supportive in that way. And he's certainly done that as we've grown at Legacy. We continue to reach out to him just for some of that continued input. And, I think there's a part of him that really loves seeing what's happening. He loves seeing what's happening with 2-3. There's a lot of these that he loves, the fact that he's been able to touch, and he hasn't left, he's retired, but as we talked about earlier, he still hasn't left the industry. He just lives it vicariously through the rest of us.
Yeah. He knows he has a standing job offer here. We haven't discussed money, but he just knows. And it's, I'm sure you guys have the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll put him on a non-paying board member
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Our
So,
we have a picture. Our first meeting was in the living room of his condo because we didn't have office space at the time. It was in COVID, so good luck finding a public
yep.
place that you could go hang out. And it's like, those kids were at home getting educated. They had school during the day, so you couldn't really interrupt all of that. So his place was our first conference room.
Yeah. No, it's funny. What, kind of the one thing I wanted to ask you too, because I've heard the story to even talking with Bill when you guys were down at ProMat. I mean, you can't walk anywhere because you know so many people and you've obviously have a very good reputation and people want to talk with you. Were you intentional about building that over time, or did it kind of just, good people are good at, just being good people, right? Like if you do right by others, people want to talk with you and word travels, or I just was curious, like, if you had anything specific or advice for people that are just getting into the industry or fresh out of college, where it's like you don't need to ping 1,000 people on LinkedIn every day to try to get your name out there. You can build it organically.
Well, I'll tell you where it all started. To give a quick nod to my uncle, my dad's older brother. Up until I met Mike, I would have said he was the best salesman I'd ever met, and I think they could probably go neck and neck. But something that has stuck with me long before I had gotten into industrial sales, I was actually selling real estate out west, and through a much larger discussion, what it boiled down to is that my uncle lived by this rule that he had a core that these were his values, these were his non-starters, these were all the things, his honesty, his integrity, his all those things. Every decision he made was centered around that. And then, kind of the stuff on the periphery took care of itself. And it always had stuck with me of, okay, if I play the game honestly, I'm not going to win every time I get an opportunity, but I'm going to be able to hold my head high and say, okay, I tried. And I did a lot of that by, as we talked about earlier, by not bad mouthing my competitors. It's really easy to go out and sell something and say, well, yeah, but their product is garbage, or they painted a different color white, or their handrail is round, not square. But the one thing that in this industry, if you just take what I've done for so many years, if you take the platform world, you can name all of the big manufacturers. None of their platforms have, to my knowledge, have ever fallen down. They look different. They have different methods of designing and material, or not materials, but shapes and all that stuff.
Yep.
But from a functional perspective, once the customer puts it up, it kind of disappears, right? You're going to put racking or shelving or modular offices or storage or whatever. It blends into it. They all stand up. So why disparage somebody and make it look like you don't have anything to sell on your merits?
Yep.
And I think as such, I've been able to sell on what I firmly believed in, what I knew the product that I was selling, what it could do. It was up to the customer to figure out if that was the right one for them. And what it's led to, as much as anything, Jake, is a lot of referrals of people saying, hey, if you're looking to do this, go talk to these guys, go talk to him, and he'll do right by you. And that's been huge. That was drilled into me. Just if you look in this industry, that was something that kind of Mike drilled into all of us, is we're not going to be the lowest priced guys out there, and we're not going to beat up our competition. Go out, sell the product, know what you're doing, solve the problem, and move on. And I would tell you that the other part is I'm a pretty social guy. Like, I like to talk with people. I also like to know, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand the products that go on and around and through the platforms that I've sold. So developed relationships with modular office companies and racking and shelving suppliers and all those. And that has led to some really good opportunities. And, so there's, it can't be understated that you don't have to just know the product you sell, know the stuff that goes around it. Even if you don't make money on it. As an example, I've got a project going on right now. They wanted a vertical lift. The project is price sensitive, and I know that. Well, I linked, I tried to get a feel for what the guy needed to know, maybe who the better of the suppliers would be.
Mhm.
And I put him in direct contact, and he's buying it direct, probably left whatever with a markup, $5 or $8 or $10,000 maybe on the table.
Yep.
But the customer got what they needed, and Legacy still got a sale out of it. It was, when you do right by the customers and these other suppliers, right? I could have just said, yeah, you can find them on the web, type in VRC and it'll come up. So
Yep.
some of it is doing right by everybody.
Isn't it? It's kind of funny when you are in front of a group of, end users or clients or whoever whoever your customer is, when they're kind of waiting for you to badmouth your competition, and then you say exactly what you just said, kind of seeing them, kind of look at it as like a fresh, like they're not used to seeing that, because so many, surprisingly, people do that. And it's never made sense. It's never made sense. Like, what we do overall is we all do the same thing. It's, it's how we do it. So it's like, how can you, like you said, everyone makes platforms.
Right.
So,
and they're all good quality. They're all good quality. What do you need out of them?
Yep.
What do you need?
Yeah.
That is one of the frustrating things. And I know that people have without a doubt, disparaged at some point or another a product that I sold, or potentially me. If that's how you got to do it, that's fine. Hopefully anybody that has worked with me would at least, I certainly haven't made everybody happy. There's people out there that don't like what I do or don't like it. And I get that. And they have good relationships with other people. That's awesome. I'm going to be honest with you. Legacy doesn't want every sale that's out there. We couldn't handle it.
Yep.
And by the way, none of our competitors, none of the other manufacturers out there, none of them have enough capacity to do it all. So go out there with integrity, win your fair share, do it right.
Yeah, having the scarcity mindset is it doesn't work, and it's very obvious. You can see the people that are doing that, and it's just there's enough in it for all of us. And I think if you have the scarcity mindset, then you have so much pressure on you when you're sitting across the table from a customer, where you can, like, you're okay if you don't. We all want to win, but it's okay. It's okay if we don't. And the customer, the people, they can feel that. They can feel the energy if you're sending them a message every day, following up, asking for the order.
So just tell me what number I have to be, and I'll be there.
Right. Yeah. If I can get to that point, are we going to have a deal? Or are you going to try to ping me for like 8 points, and I have to go back to all my manufacturers, and then you just go with someone else? Yeah. But no, I think it is interesting. You see so many different types of people, so many different types of ways that people sell, and obviously the way you're doing it works, and we're trying to emulate the same thing over here. So it's I'm glad you decided to come on, and I just wanted an excuse to talk to you. Honestly, that was
as my wife told me, all this does is feed my ego.
Yeah.
I love, listen, I love talking about the industry and what we do. And similar to what you said about us, I would echo back, is it's been fun to watch 2-3 grow. All the time I'm seeing now adding to the roster, and that's huge. And you haven't done it at the expense of others. And we want to be the same way. There's a huge market for both our companies out there.
Yep.
Go find a way to grow and serve the right people. And it's been a lot of fun to watch you grow. And of course, we all decided to do it during COVID, to start COVID. So really good move on our part.
Hey, it's worked, right? It's better. Starting a business during COVID we knew that would be a smart decision.
Yep.
Right.
That's exactly what my wife thought when I said, yeah, you left a good job that had a 401k and health insurance. And no, it's brilliant.
It's expensive, isn't it? Health and doing that on your own. And then when I was going to go give my 2 weeks, the moment I thought about starting 2-3 to the moment I gave my 2 weeks was 4 weeks. It was a 4-week time, which, like, looking back on it, that's silly. That was silly. But like at that second week, third week of thinking about it, my wife lets me know that she's pregnant with our third. So
No pressure.
like, yeah, this is a great time. COVID and another baby. Let's do it. So
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah. No, exactly.
We don't need to make a bigger. We should buy a bigger house while we're at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
New cars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
a real estate broker that when I proposed to my wife, I still lived in Utah at the time when I proposed, and he said, "Man, I love that." He says, "Now go buy a house and get really in debt. That is the most motivating thing that you can do is
Yep.
just do that, and you'll be out selling all you can."
Yeah, that's what we had at one of our one of the old timers at the company I used to work for. He would always try to convince the sales guys to go buy
Yeah.
ATVs and boats and like a nice car for that exact reason. So I'm not telling anyone here to do that. I think we can be smart about our money and still make money as well.
Well, I kind of laughed. So my father-in-law used to buy all my company cars when they would rotate out because I take pretty good care of my car. So he bought he bought two from me, and then actually a friend of mine bought a third one from the company. And
yeah.
I still drive one of the cars that I don't know if you know Tom Surgis, but he's a sales guy. So Tom drove this for a couple of years, and he sent me maybe 6-8 months ago sent me a picture of, hey, I just got my new company car, and it's a Dodge Charger or something like that. And I sent a picture of this 2011 Camry, and he's like, seriously? Like, yeah, it still runs.
It still runs. Yeah. Yeah.
I can go spend the money on something else. I don't need a fancy to drive 5 miles to work.
Yeah, or to occasionally come to Milwaukee. Not occasionally, but bring that to Milwaukee. Do you fly? You fly in. You got to fly in though.
I do, because it's so easy. Dayton to Chicago. And grab a car and drive an hour, and I'm there. I don't fly into Milwaukee anymore. I got that flight from Chicago to Milwaukee, or Milwaukee to Chicago, depending on which direction. Canceled 2 times.
Yeah,
it's a couple $100 to do that. It's an hour flight. Actually, it's not even that. It's a 41-minute flight.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
And I love Milwaukee. It's a fun town. My wife won't let me get a place up there because she's afraid to be too comfortable. So.
Probably. She'd probably have to come up here more often than she wants to. Yeah.
It's true. And this time of year, it's tough to get her to convince her to come up further north. But,
yep. No, all good. I appreciate you.
Thanks for the time. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about it. I mean, it's always good talking to you, but thanks for letting me tell more about the story.
No, for sure. We'll do it again.